Okay, Mike. So we're here to talk about our GitLab Pages priorities, given that we did a jobs to be done on GitLab Pages, and now we have to kind of sequence what we want to prioritize and then what we want to do designs for, right?
Yep. So I'm hoping we can just go through these and kind of talk about them
Sounds good.
all. There's not that many of them, so we'll probably go through them pretty quickly. So this first one, add a link to pages settings on the project detail page. So let me not do that. Let me do new tabs. Got this fresh new no tabs thing. I got to get filled up with tabs. So to me, like this one is like super low priority. This is a really nice to have, and to me, this one is definitely dependent on that idea that we've talked about before of if we can designate a project as a page project, then something like this would make sense.
Okay.
But this is definitely not something I think we should release into the general public because so basically it's just this idea, right? Is this set up pages, right? Because I'm in the mode of pages. I want to set my pages up. Set up CI/CD may not resonate with me. That takes 2 leaps of understanding to know that, well, to do pages, I have to do CI/CD. So I'm going to set up my CI/CD to set up my pages. It'd be a lot clearer if they just go there and, you know, so that link and this link would essentially be the same link. But again, I don't think we should do this one unless we first do a mechanism to designate a project as a page project, because you certainly would not want to see this in anything that is not a page project. So this one, I think we should probably just move to the backlog and consider doing it maybe at some point. I think we should deprioritize this one.
Okay, let's do that. I think, the way that we can indicate priority maybe is using our release P1, P2, and P3, or how would you, because it's already kind of in the backlog, right?
Yeah, maybe we should just update this epic to not have, I know I had done this on the issue and you kind of copied and pasted this over. We should probably just update this epic description to not have this list in here anymore and use the GitLab mechanisms to do this. So if it's already in the backlog, I think that's fine. I think that's the appropriate place for it. We have the issue for it here, and we can, this is saying milestone known, but maybe we put it in the backlog.
Okay, so what I'll do is just include an issue list link for in the epic description. Just include an issue list link for these guys.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, ideally, this should be right. Like this is this just with more description around it, because in the issue that it came from, it was a way to present solutions that could come out of this. But I think we've moved past that now, and we shouldn't just drag it around anymore.
Okay,
that makes sense.
Sounds good. All right, I updated the epic to include that. So for this first one, I'll go ahead and indicate that it's going to be in the backlog.
Okay. Kind of needed that for this discussion. my discussion is going to be based. I was saying we should, if we could update the description after this discussion. So
I mean, all the issues are linked below anyway, so we could just go through the issues that are linked, the green ones.
Okay. Yep.
So the first two, like making pages easier to use for everyone, that might be one to look at. It's already in the backlog, but.
Yeah, so to me, this is the same idea that the redesign page settings, this is the same issue here. Okay. So to me, these two are one and the same.
I'm going to say closing in favor of redesign settings page. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so that one, I think the settings page is just It's kind of been ad hoc added on to for since its existence, and it doesn't have like a clear design on it, and it's very confusing in its current setup. These are some definite problems that it has: reduce the visual impact, better connect new domain with that, reduce the confusion of the save button, and
Mm-hmm.
provide an area for in UI documentation. So I think if we did those things, it would go a long way to making it easier for people to understand just by cleaning this up. This is a lot of work, but it is primarily front-end work, so this might be possible to tackle now-ish.
Yeah.
Probably ideally we would break these up into, this might span into two issues, like the cleanup of it, and then no, I take that back. This should probably all be done as one.
Yeah, because I think I like to contain issues to what value we're delivering for an end user or customer. And when we like end up spanning just because the size of an issue, we might want to consider that.
Yeah. So to me, this is the most important one, right? Like if we can clean up that settings area, I think it'll go a long way. And then set us up to be able to add features on top of it. Or less features, but more like things on top of it. I think the rest of these discussions will probably be much better served once this is done. This is what I would do first.
Okay.
From a UX standpoint.
So here's what I'll do. I'm going to fix workflow planning breakdown for front end to look at. And let's schedule this work for 12.10 for implementation, which would give you 2 milestones for designs. Would that be enough?
Yeah. Yeah. And thinking about it a little more, I think the exercise that we did on feature flags would be well served here of do the everything redesign on it as a step one, and then we look at that and see if we need to break that down further. We might not need to, but it might be significant enough that we want to break that into pieces.
Okay. So I'll schedule this for 12.10 and make a note to John and to Nathan Friend, who's our, lead front end. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to move that one to the top, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
Making pages, everyone, we're going to close that one. I think we just discussed that. Incomplete information on setting up pages domain. I'm actually not familiar with this one. Well, I've looked at this one before. I think this could all happen as part of that redesign effort as well.
So do you want me to close it out, or
no, I think we should keep it open.
are they related together?
Yeah, we'll see if we can just include this as part of that, and then maybe the design from that will filter down into this. I think we'll do that. I think we should just do that first, kind of do the big redesign first, and then see if we can break that into, if it's too big to do all in once, we can segment it out into existing issues, like this one would be a great example. That makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, this is the one we just talked about.
Yeah, I moved it to the backlog, so we'll be good there.
All right, so I'm going to move this one down since it's low priority.
Okay, so then that other issue of incomplete information on setting pages domain, it needs to get scheduled at the same time as the other one, right? Because they're both related.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I really think what we should do is 12.8, I'll commit to having that design done. And then towards the end of 12.8, we can have another kind of planning meeting like this and see if we need to break it down. And I think that will give us a much clearer vision of how we need to break down the issues moving forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. What I'll do is just make sure that we're linking and putting the labels so that it pulls it onto our new planning board. So like CI/CD planning, we'll pull it onto that new board that we have, and then we'll get it. We'll be able to look at it then, and then I'm going to link these two related issues together.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is essentially. This issue, the provide page setup instructions on the settings page, is essentially this bullet point here. Provide an area for you in UI documentation. It's just more fleshed out idea of it.
Okay.
But basically just saying, if you haven't set it up, let's give you some clear instructions on the kind of landing page. You know, most settings things kind of have those default area where there is some, you know, action items that you can take. So this would basically be that, and would go a long way to that other issue of making it easier, rather than having to go to the documentation and understand these steps. Let's just present these steps.
So this is more like a documentation issue?
Well, it's an in UI documentation, right? We have the documentation in the documentation. This would be pulling the steps into the landing page. If you don't have a pages set up, you would be presented with kind of a landing screen that tells you how you can set it up.
Got it. So the redesign issue is probably an epic.
Yes, honestly.
Can I promote it right now?
Yeah, we're going to run into the slight problem where it's going to get removed now from, although you can add epics to epics. So yeah, I promote that to an epic, and then I would make this a child of that epic.
Okay. Beautiful. I think we're in shape.
Yeah, so this one's an interesting idea. Like, I think we should, given the fact that this thoroughly confused me when I first tried to set up GitLab pages, was I'm going to the settings to set up GitLab pages, and there are things that you do in the settings for GitLab pages, but really to set up GitLab pages, you have to be in the CI YAML file. So I think we should build a connection point between those two. So on the settings page, we should have a link that allows you to go to the YAML file and make the edits that you need to make. So that if you do like I did, and I would suspect most people do, you're going to go into the settings page and realize, oh, I do need to do this. So it's really more just of a connection kind of thing. I think it's simple. You know, we just put a link in there and like some description text around like why this link exists, you know.
So this sounds like it's going to be a back end and front end issue.
It can literally just be a link to your project / the YAML file.
Okay. Got it.
I don't think it would require any backline. In fact, here's the link here, or if it does exist.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, so
the only reason we would potentially, I would say version 2 of this would be a smarter one. If you could put in multiple CI YAML files or name it something different. I take that back. You can't do that. Your YAML file has to be named your YAML file. Yes. So no, it would not need backend.
Okay.
Again, I would make this a child of that redesign because I think it could be handled at that same time.
Handled at the same time. That does sound like that might be a lot of work for 12.10, but we could probably get a bunch of people just to swarm on it. So
yeah,
I'll link those.
This one's one of my favorites. I love this one. Because I spent so much time on it. Nobody ever looks at this one. I researched every static site generator on the planet. Although that's not true because there's like 200. These are the top 20 based on stars. I based it on staticsitegenerator.com. But these are the 20 most popular. I don't think we should do all 20 of these because, it starts getting into weird stuff down here that I've never heard of. But for a lot of these, the upshot is we have example projects for all of these, right? We're only missing a few in here. If we have the example project, building the template should be pretty trivial.
Okay.
Because the example project has a YAML file in it that works with these things. So it's really more of if we have this information, just putting it and making it available as a template when you go to select your page's template when you first start out. Does that make sense, what I'm talking about?
Yes. I think that this is probably going to be multiple issues. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we do also have, so it's two things really. Like there is, if I go to create a new project, I hate how this thing always covers it. Let me drag. There we go. Adding it here as well. So adding it here, and then also adding as a template in the CI YAML file. Where the debate starts coming in though is, again, it's this problem of noise, right? Everyone that we add here is one more that's on this page, right?
Right.
And we don't want to add everything known to man on there. And also even in the template thing as well, we don't want to add every single template known to man on there. It would be nice if that was like a more robust UI that was kind of nested things and we could search it. But that's a topic for another day. So what I think we first need to do on this is prioritize which ones we actually do want to promote to that level. In my opinion, those would be the two key ones in my opinion that are missing are ViewPress and Gatsby. Those two are, as far as static site generators go, Next, Nux, Gatsby, ViewPress. Those are your four big boys. And we don't have Gatsby, which is, my opinion, the most popular one that there is. And ViewPress, I think, will become the most popular one.
Okay.
So step one on this is the debate of which one of these we really want to promote to this. And then step two would be just adding those two things in there.
So you know how we have that project called GitLab Pages example, and it has the Gatsby example project in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So we feel like we would need to have the create from template button to make that experience really like premium.
Yeah, like we have Jekyll, plain HTML, Gitbook, and Hexio. I guess this might be a marketing research exercise to really determine. In my opinion, Gitbook, Hexio, Jekyll, Hugo are far less important than Gatsby and ViewPress. Certainly Gatsby. Gatsby is like the most popular one. So if it comes to the point where this list is getting too long, we might even want to like consider demoting one of these and promoting one of the other ones.
So I think what I'll do is create an issue for us to validate that our pages, templates, are relevant and we support the most popular SSGs, right?
Yep. And I think this is, I mean, but we obviously don't want to base it just on one website, but this is a good resource to look at that. There's metrics that they do on there. As far as which one are popular. And I think they count GitHub stars and all that good jazz. And because it's a difficult thing to quantify really, because, you know, these are just libraries and there's no API that really determines whether or not somebody's using these. So it really has to come down to things like stars. And
Okay. Let me finish this issue before you dive into the next one.
okay.
And I just created this one. I'll link it to your template issue, and then I think what we would want to do is submit a UX research survey request, and then we can create a survey for our pages customers to say that I wish you guys had, like what templates they wish that we supported better, or we could even evaluate what templates they have used and are not happy with. Like, for example, Vlad would really love for us to fix some of the Jekyll functionality in our template. So like, that's a really great example of like, we should evaluate that opportunity there. Yep. Okay, so I'll assign myself, and then I'm going to assign you to this issue, and then we can decide when we want to take this on, but I'll put it in the backlog for now. Okay. Okay. Let me relate it back to your template issue. Okay. All right, go for it.
So this one's really a nice to have, but I think it's a nice to have. So this would be an option to add in, rather than have to, so if you add in a link to, at the end of your description, if you have a link to it, it shows up here in your project description. So it is visible that this is pages, and you get right there a direct link to it if you want to see it, or it also shows up, like at the top here, right? It's a fantastic place. I'm working on pages. One of the most important thing about pages is the actual website that it's related to. But to make this happen, you have to edit the project description manually, right? And then if you change the URL, you have to remember to change it, all that. So this would basically be just an option in the pages setting to say, of your URLs, denote one of these and automatically append it to the description.
I'm going to say in the In the title, I'm going to say add option in pages settings. And then do we want to add it to our redesign setting pages? Or since it's not directly on the settings page?
Yeah, it could be done as part of that exercise for sure.
Okay. I'll link that back to our redesign pages settings page then.
Yeah.
And then
and this would be even better if you have that redirect one, because then we have a clear like this would get a little interesting if you had multiple domains, but if you have that redirect one, then we know which one to show.
right. That would be, I'm hoping that CRAS gets that research issue done this milestone, or the first week of the next milestone rather. Okay.
This one's a stretch. This one's probably a far down the road kind of one. But basically, if your job is producing a deployment to the GitLab pages, it would be nice when that job runs, if somewhere in the output on the right-hand side, right now you get like the job artifacts section, that right-hand panel over there. It would be nice to see like a link to the what is output. This becomes much less necessary if we did like the last one, because then that link's going to be all over your page. I don't know. This one may actually be a let's never do this. It's just a fun thought.
So
you want me to illustrate what I'm talking about?
No, I understand it fully. I'm just wondering, if we support things like environments at the group level, how do you think jobs and pipelines that run at a group level and a project level would be impacted by something like this?
Well, I guess it depends on what the URL which makes this even less useless now that I'm thinking about it. Like, it depends on what URL you display here, right? Because this isn't like a review app kind of situation where it's a dynamic URL or something like that. Although there is talk of making that happen. And if that did happen, then maybe this does make much more sense. But then you could just use the review app URL and you wouldn't need this. So I think I'm talking myself into we don't need this.
Yeah, I'm going to add a comment, and then if people start engaging on it, they could add feedback to it, but I'm going to close this out. And I'll let you know that I think that review apps or dynamic URLs for environments and deployments probably solve this.
Yeah. We'll call that one a filler one, right? You had to make a lot of recommendations to look like you're doing your job. We'll call it, that was a filler one.
I like closing things. This is good.
What's this? I honestly don't know what this one is. This was a Marcel open this.
So this is a documentation request, I think. But let me check. Improved doc experience for baseline job to be done. And our recommendations you listed that are related to this. So
Yeah. So maybe just, I don't know if you want to do it now or not, but it might, this feels like we have addressed this already, I think. But want to just do a deep dive on it a little bit more. And maybe I can do that.
Actually, I'm just going to comment back to Marcel if he feels like these things are still relevant.
Okay.
It's open 3 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, comment back and see. Okay, so she's got a comment on it as well. Hasn't been responded to as well. But yeah, our documentation update may or may not have resolved this already.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to assign myself here as well, just so I'll take a pass through this and look to see if there's the delta between what we've done and what he's suggesting.
Got it. That works for me.
That's just the scorecard one. And we already talked about adding a link. Yeah, so one last thing that isn't really, I guess, covered in a issue, although maybe it's buried in that other one, is this idea here of Jekyll and Hexo have this broken CSS problem.
Okay, so let me add an issue. And maybe we create an epic for pages templates improvements, because that's something that Vlad was mentioning. And then we can relate all template issues to that epic.
Yeah, I do think all of them, this is really a documentation thing, but almost all of them need clearer readmes. Okay. And why that's important is when if you do it the way it suggests of forking the project or creating it from a template, the first thing you see is that README. So that becomes like the default. Like these READMEs are written as documentation,
right?
But they're a little confusing in some cases. So we should probably just tackle them on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, if you create an epic for this, then we can.
Yeah, I'm gonna copy paste your table into the epic, and then we can create sub issues for each relevant template. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. So I think that was it for what we need to cover.
Okay, awesome. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.